This is Rudy Lozano, broker for PRG Platinum. Thank you for joining us in person, as well as on Zoom and as well as YouTube. Interesting week this week. August 14th was the day that was the last day that the compensation was on the multiple listing service in all of the entire country. Um, So now we have different challenges. So today I'm going to discuss the different NAR forms to help you protect your income, your business, as well as to keep you in compliance. So let me just start off by saying is just do it. We will get through this. Um, we do need to ensure not only that you get compensated, but also that we're in compliance. So let me start off by letting you know that there is an amendment, PXR 2701, that was published June 24th. So, in the conversations that I've been having with you guys since that day, I went on record letting you know that I did not think that you guys would be required to update your listing agreements nor your buyer's representation agreement. Like, let's say you've been working with somebody since like January or February, or you had somebody under an exclusive right to list. You started in January, it's going to end in December. Well, this form, which is the amendment to the representation agreement, it includes both. The first section, which is A, covers your buyer's representation agreement written before June 24th, as well as your exclusive right to list written before June 24th. So you do not have to redisclose, redo the listing agreement, and do all of that. Okay. This amendment will take care of it and bring you into compliance because it has the full transparency to a buyer as well as the option to a seller that now they have the option not to pay the buyer's agent. Okay. So you do not need to redo your paperwork. This will cover you. However, after June 24th, there's no reason if you took on a listing June 25th, or you took on a buyer as a client as of late June, you should already be using the new forms to be in compliance. Okay, it's anything that was written exclusively to list buyer's representation prior to the new TREC and TAR forms that were made available June 24th. Huge date. Okay, so um, I received a number of phone calls about the compensation agreement between brokers. The reason that this form becomes ever so important, guys, is, and I got the phone calls on the buying side and on the listing side. Okay. What ends up happening is that if it's our listing, we want to nip it in the bud who's going to pay the compensation, right? Or what's being negotiated. But in reality, it is the responsibility of the buyer's agent to clearly know and understand how much compensation is up for grabs. If you do not confirm compensation on the other agents, if you represent the buyer, you need to document on their website, by text, by email, by voicemail, by conversation, how much the compensation is, but that is not enough. If you do not get this compensation agreement between brokers that clearly defines that it's 3% plus $1,000 bonus, and you want to negotiate with the seller, you can, but you definitely want to confirm the compensation before even showing the home. A lot of conversations about whose responsibility it is. The listing agent knows through their exclusive right to list how much they're taking on that listing for. They know what their compensation is going to be. And they're having that conversation, but I'm going to market it And hopefully through intermediary or one of these other 14,000 realtors in the city will bring us a qualified buyer. They're having to disclose how much of the compensation will be shared with the other agent. However, if you submit an offer to a listing agent, it is the fiduciary duty of the buyer's agent to include the compensation agreement between brokers. Hey, Mr. Uh, Jack Smith at KW or Central 21 or whatever office. Hey, your property's on the top three. I'm not sure if he will submit an offer, but hey, it's on the top three. But um, just in case, you know, I do write up an offer. Hey, I'm going to shoot over this compensation agreement between brokers. Can I get you to execute that for me so that way I have it in my file? In the event we submit an offer, would be the way that I would handle it. You're in the top three. There is a possibility that I'm going to submit an offer, but you want the compensation agreed upon. Once you have this compensation agreement, then submit your offer or submit, but don't submit it as part of your offering. Don't do that because guys, this is only going to open up. Um, we're going to see a lot of ethics violations, maybe at the smaller brokerages where they don't have a compliance manager monitoring and policing all of this stuff. I don't think it's going to happen at the bigger offices. We're not going to want disputes, being on the phone, putting out fires. No. But I could see how your compensation could be switched. Oh, man, I sent you the compensation agreement, and it was the wrong one. And, here you assume, and then you got five of them. Go to the website, get it confirmed on a different platform. Also get the compensation agreement between brokers before you submit your offer. And I would go as far as if you don't have the compensation confirmed prior to your showings, you need to cancel that showing. Hey, I'm so sorry we didn't make. If you were too busy that you couldn't confirm the compensation by text, by phone, by email, or direct me to your broker's website so I could confirm, you know, I'll reschedule it for tomorrow. It's 109 degrees today. It'll be 109 degrees tomorrow. The difference is that if you go show that property and then they razzle dazzle you and it's not anywhere posted anywhere, and you showed that property, your buyer fell in love with that property. Okay, there's a chance that it might not be in one of those buckets.
One question.
Yeah.
Would it be considered steering asking the buyer's agent for the commission?
Repeat the question.
Would it be considered steering asking the other agent for part of the commission?
It is not. It is not. For those of you that have attended class with me already for 6 to 8 weeks, um, you're gonna need an office. You have one. You're gonna have to sit down with your client like we did in the old days, you know. And if you do nothing in person, do your buyer's orientation in person. Because, like an attorney, you conduct business on the client level. Your buyer's orientation is to determine if you're even going to take them on as clients. Because if they're telling you they don't have any money for their down payment, for their closing costs, well, they don't have any money for your compensation. Okay. At that moment, of course, I mean, if they have good credit and other things going for them and they have the income, well, then you're going to tell them, hey, I am going to try to, because I'm a master negotiator, and I'm going to try to negotiate it with the seller, with the builder, in concessions. But the fourth bucket happens to be the buyer. If there's any of the compensation that needs to be paid by you, do you still want me to expose you to listings that you might potentially pay for the compensation? Get them to answer the question. Mr. Buyer, would you like me to expose you to properties in which you might be responsible to the compensation? Yes or no? No. Well, at that moment, and I'll go tick for tack with whoever I need to. You haven't had a discussion about a zip code, a school district, a subdivision. a 3 bedroom, 2 bath, if it's in an HOA or not. You haven't started to define criteria, right? You're not steering them away from a community. You don't know if it's predominantly Black, Hispanic, or Chinese. You're not talking about criteria right now. You're talking about, if I am going to invest my time, my money, my resources in helping your family find the best possible home in this marketplace, nothing has been discussed about any other discriminating um, criteria. Race, color, religion, nothing has been discussed yet. It's We're sitting here today determining if you and I are going to be a good fit with one another. Because I don't take everybody on as a client. I don't work the Houston area. I don't work the Del Rio area. I don't work New Braunfels. I live closer to Castroville, right? So once again, this is your business, guys, and I will support you to the fullest extent of the law and these underwriting guidelines. And I'll be more than happy to sit in front of Congress if I need to and go, this is what you gave me to work with. And this is what I advise as the broker of record. This is how it interpreted your forms to mean for us to be in compliance. Because at the same time, nobody leaves their home not to make any money. So once again, we didn't talk about a community or subdivision or nothing. We talked about if they were okay me exposing them to properties where the compensation wasn't being offered by the seller. And their answer was no. I showed them 7 other houses in Stone Oak. I showed them 10 other houses in Wild Horse or in Alamo Ranch. I showed them the properties that met their needs to include the criteria having to do with the compensation. It's not steering and it's not discrimination, redlining. If you sold 7 or 10 other homes in that same community, you just strategically, to be able to meet their financial needs, didn't expose that home, right? There was no discussion of anything else. I want to make that perfectly clear. I know that that's not what I'm hearing from other industry experts or other brokers or whatever, but you know, there's a way to do things. I worked for an attorney for 2 years, guys. He represented housing and urban development. The gentleman's name was Michael Casey. I had the honor and privilege of working and being the operations manager for housing and urban development, servicing 36 counties. But when people came in for his legal services, he didn't take on every client. This is your business. You're a business within a business. Okay. So um, I hope I answered the question. Okay. So, yes, sir. So you have it in writing, so they can say, yes, I did say that, or no, I didn't. Otherwise, you can even um, write it on the form. I would be okay with that. Okay. Buyer chooses not to see listings where compensation will not be paid or is the responsibility of the buyer. Buyer's agreement. Handwrite it. Handwrite it. Have that discussion with them. Okay. Cover your assets. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So then when we submit the offer, then it's not gonna be the compensation agreement between brokers. That's just for compliance. So what we do submit is the addendum with, when we're presenting the offer.
No, you want to have this compensation agreement between brokers. It clearly outlines that they are going to. I mean, hopefully by then you've already verified it on their website or by text or by email, and you want to, when you're submitting your offer and knowing that it's in the top 3 or 5, that there's a chance you're going to submit an offer. You already want this compensation agreement between brokers to be secured.
If it could be send it.
Absolutely, I would. I would. Hey, because they're going to think that they didn't verify it. No, your signature's on there. Okay, so why are you paying me 2%?
I'm just saying,
Okay.
because the contract and it doesn't say it, and then so.
Yes, I would go ahead and include it. Absolutely, absolutely. Right now, guys, we're being asked to provide the compensation agreement between brokers. We're also being asked to provide buyers reps agreements to title. I just got a request right now because what it is that it's a compliance piece.
Right.
We as the broker have to verify that we're in compliance with this lawsuit. So you technically cannot show a property if you don't have the short form or the long form buyer's representation agreement. Okay. We have to verify that it was executed prior to the execution date of the contract. Okay. At the same time, what I recommend that you do, guys, is, and let's start with that. Let's start with the short form. The short form is how you want to capture the client. We're going to start this journey. It's going to be fun. You're already pre-qualified. I already see your pre-approval letter. I mean, you can buy up to 300,000. Okay, great. Let's go. This house here that I'm doing an open house. A lot of people are discouraged from doing open houses, guys. I think it's going to be an opportunity because their agent or another agent might say, "Oh no, I'm not showing you houses because you won't sign this paperwork." It gives you an opportunity. Hey, are you working with an agent? Technically, no, I don't. Have you signed anything? No. Okay, well, this house doesn't meet your needs. I get off in 10 minutes at this open house. I can show you 3 homes. But hey, I'm needing for you to fill out my short form buyer's representation agreement. All this states is that to you is that a couple of things. Number one, it has to be clearly defined who I represent in the transaction. So when I walk you into these 3 other homes, the seller needs to know that I don't represent the seller, I represent you. Okay. And number two, the compensation. I personally charge 3% or 4%, or my brokerage charges 3 or 4%. Tell them whatever you wanted, what you wish. Okay. So I'll need for you to sign this. Well, furthermore, what ends up happening is that the compensation now you know that it comes from 4 different buckets. From the seller, from the builder. I can ask for sales concessions. And then if there's any difference, you would be responsible for that. Are you okay with that? Oh, no, I don't want to pay. No, 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 no. Calm down. It's okay. I'm telling you that I'm a master negotiator. I'm going to try to get the compensation from the 3 other buckets first before you need to pay it. Okay. So once again, from the seller, from the builder, from sales concessions, and any minor difference, you would be responsible for you. Which you and I can talk about that once we uh, pinpoint a property that you like. Okay. Yes, ma'am.
So now when we have the open house, there's also the sign-up sheet that we need, right?
You should always have a sign up sheet, or you need to have the application that's on Bold Trail that starts the AI and starts to capture them as a lead as well. For security reasons. Mhm. Yes. So once again, um, going down, it's the parties, um, appointments, definitions is Bear County, the surrounding areas, the term on the short form, guys. I'd recommend 2 days, depending on how unstable they are, or definitely lock them down for at least a week. Because I mean, you're going to need a follow up visit. So my recommendations is 7 to 10 days on the short form, because you might have locked them down or ran into them on a Saturday, Sunday. You really want another weekend, have an opportunity to razzle and dazzle them with your knowledge and that that part of the city or that community and stuff. Um, but always check off full services and always talk about percentages. I do not recommend showing services at all that you show 3 houses for $150. Because when you transition from the short form to the long form, they're going to go, hey, you only showed me 5 properties. You were charging me $150 for you to show me 3 houses. And now you're going to collect 3% in compensation. So don't do it. Don't do it. Charge a percentage. Okay. Um, Broker's compensation, 3% or 4%, whatever you charge. There's already agents, guys, that have been charging 4% plus our transaction fee for years. 4 years. This isn't new to us. And guess what? We've been providing buyers reps agreements for years to title. Because if the seller is only offering three, their listing agreement says three, and they have to document themselves that you have the right to collect the difference, they will ask for the buyer's rep agreement. Because you cannot charge for extra money that the buyer didn't agree to pay you, even if it's being given through a third party like the seller or a builder. Okay, but there's amendments for that. Okay, so um, and you always want to check intermediary, and you want to sell them on that. Hey, as you are here today at my open house that you just walked through, we have over 200 something listings. Okay, through intermediary, it allows me to expose you to the inventory first before the general public. So you have the competitive advantage, right? So convince them on that. Um, and then just get them to sign it. Don't go into great detail. Hey, I need for you to just know that um, it's just for transparency. I need to disclose, as required by this lawsuit that you probably heard on the news, um, that who I represent, and in this case, I'm going to be representing you. You're not my customer. You're not my prospect. You're going to be my client. Number two, I'm letting you know what area I service. I service Bexar County and the surrounding areas. This agreement's only for 7 or 10 days. Furthermore, I provide service, full services. My organization is a full service real estate firm. We offer mortgage, insurance, notary services, as well as we're a full service real estate firm. We offer residential, commercial, farm and ranch. We do it all. You want to work with us? I got you covered. I'm going to make this process a pleasant buying experience. This was and then, of course, your compensation, guys. Don't ponder too much on the compensation. What you want to state is that, hey, I don't know if our journey is going to take us to one house or 30 houses in 109-degree weather. Okay. But just know that I love what I do, and thank you for the opportunity. But just know that I'm going to try to collect my compensation from the seller, from the builder in concessions. And if there's a minor difference, from you. Okay. So hopefully you'll see a value in these services that I provide so that way we can make uh, your family's dream of owning a home a reality. Okay. Are you ready to start? Because I'm ready, right? Make it short and brief. It's the short form. Okay. Don't make it too complicated. Okay. Yes, sir.
You said commercial, can you use for commercial just for temporary?
You can. Yeah, what it is that it's a client relationship. There's folks that I've sold residential to and commercial as well in Farm and Ranch. And,
And then
it's a client relationship. Remember, guys, is that the client relationship never ends. You must uphold your fiduciary duties to your tomb. Obedience, liability, disclosure, care, accountability, and responsibility. Even if they in the future they use another agent, the client relationship never ends. Okay. So that's the short form. After a week or the 10 days or whatever, you want to use the long form. The long form has more protections for you and more protections for them as well. And it clearly outlines certain things. Um, but real quick, obviously the parties, that hasn't changed. Appointments, definitions, of course, the counties that you service, the term needs to be extended. I would not take on a buyer for less than 120 days. Many folks do it for 6 months, and many folks do it for a year. Because, like I said, which I'll cover next, you don't know if you know how long your journey's going to be, depending on whether you're in the existing market or the new home market. So, on broker's compensation, on our form it says at least collect 3%. Okay, you can amend it if you wish in the future. You could also put, there's plenty of space here, up to 4%. Okay, if you're in the existing market, and break it out, guys. Hey, we're in the existing market. If we go under contract, we'll close within 30 to 45 days. Okay. Now it's less than 30 days because of technology. Things are moving very quickly. There's no reason for you not to close in less than 30 days unless there's something going on with the buyer that they need to pay off stuff. They're getting a gift, they need to sell something, or whatever. Um, but on 7A, put at least up to 3 or up to 4%. And that includes your transaction fee. For those of you that charge 3 and 4% plus a transaction fee. Okay. And then I immediately want to take you to 7E. On here, I have up to 5%. But if you want to go ahead and put 8%, I'm okay with it. Up to 8%. And the reason that you want to mention that, guys, is that housing and urban development allows up to 8% in compensation on a trade transaction. That is FHA, VA, USDA, and A paper convention on a trade transaction. Okay, and most of your buyers close A paper. Now, on the non-QM side, let, let's say you're working with an investor or a Mexican national, you're in farm and ranch and commercial. There is no limitation, guys. We have been involved on a commercial deal in this office where the compensation was 12%. You're only restricted on FHA, VA, USDA, and conventional up to 8%. Why do you think GL Horton's offering 7? In 2006, I was involved in one deal where the compensation was 8 because the market was already tanking in 6, and it got even worse in 7 and 8. 8%. It's been that way for years. For years, as long as I can remember, it's been at least 15 or 20 years that the compensation maximum has been 8%. Okay. Um, so once again, don't freak people out. You don't know if your journey is going to be for a day or for a week or for a month or 3 months or 4 months. And in the construction side, I always like to bring up my example with the Holiday family. Many moons ago, 2 years, guys, of my life, 2 years. We went into the existing market. We went all over the city. We found land. We had installed a septic, you know, electricity on the property, and um, the architect just to select the architect took time. The builder took time. And then she even fired 3 general contractors. 2 years later, her house was completed. So give that example, make it your own. I don't know if I'm going to find you a Geo Horton track home and get to close in 30 days, or you and I are going to be involved in a custom home, that's going to involve developing the land and civil engineering and all of this jazz, and then going through, you know, interviewing custom home builders and, the distance and all of that and the hours in 100-degree weather. So once again, construction is completely different. But like I said, don't worry about it. Take a deep breath. I'm going to try to collect it from the builder, from the seller, or concessions, and any difference you will need to cover it. Okay. So I don't recommend that you do a protection period for less than 60 days or at least 30 to 60 days, but 60 days. Okay. And then let's talk about that protection period. I'd recommend that you guys write in 17 special provisions that you have a retainer fee, a non refundable retainer fee of $1,500. or an early termination fee of $1,500, $2,500. On paragraph 17, special provisions. If you're dealing with a Mexican national or you're dealing with somebody from California or New York that's flying into San Antonio and they're thinking that you're some type of glorified tour guide, don't do it. Collect the retainer fee. Tell them that you're going to block out your Friday, Saturday, Sunday. You're going to put other clients aside to include your personal family activities, and that if they really want to purchase a home, um, they will, but you need to cover your costs in the event that they choose not to buy anything. But once again, in good faith, if they're going to use you and they're going to tie you up for a weekend, tell them that it could be that it will be refundable at closing. Hey, $2,500 retainer fee to be paid up front to be reimbursed on the closing of your new home. So you'll reimburse that retainer fee, but if they don't buy nothing or anything, you get to keep that retainer fee. But if they buy something, you're in good faith are going to reimburse it to them, right? So collect your money up front as a retainer fee because attorneys do it, guys. An attorney's not going to touch your file without collecting a retainer fee. It's just not going to happen. It's too much work.
This is for what? in particular?
For anything. If you're going to do farm and ranch or development, be working with investors or people from out of town, that are wanting to take up your time, collect a retainer fee up front. You will separate, the cows from the bulls at that moment, right? And you're agreeing for it to be refundable upon closing. But that if but if they ghost you, if they disappear, you get to keep that retainer fee. We'll receipt it in and cut it out to you. Okay. Um, Once again, guys, intermediary. You do not, whether you have an exclusive right to list or you have a buyer's rep agreement, you want to expose people to our inventory. Okay. Let them know it's to their advantage because then they will bless you. They will have the first dibs on any new listing that comes out in the marketplace. They'll have the competitive advantage. Right now, the market's a little bit sluggish, guys. But a year from now, when rates are lower and folks get off the benches and start looking for property, that's competitive advantage. Okay. Um,
Good question.
uh-huh.
So how it reads you and see at every brokerage to see what the compensation is like we do here. Is it the same across the boards? Like we're gonna be going to wherever else, right? To go see the listing agent and what the price is. Well, here we can see it because the class ain't got it.
Uh-huh.
How do we go into somebody else's?
You're going to have to ask them. That's the reason that everybody this week is going to get a phone call. Because if you guys have a listing, we've already been offering this MLS broker IDX integration.
Right.
The broker IDX is the website that you guys get paid on, where you have to upload your listing agreements as well as your uh, contracts and such. So for those of you guys that have listings, you guys have to disclose your compensation there. You have to tie in your profile uh, with our website to Sabor, so that way the uh, anybody logging onto your listing will be taken to our website and they're going to be able to see the compensation on our website. 3% plus $1,000 bonus. That's on our website. I'm seeing brokers talking about, call me, it's Sunday, I'll send you over the broker compensation agreement. That's not necessary. I mean, if you have 10 listings, I mean, do you really want to be bothered on a Saturday, Sunday when you're doing something else or at a listing appointment? It's just not feasibly possible. If there is one thing I really dislike, is that piece from everything that's going on. Because I know that a lot of brokers don't have that technology in place or they're not tech savvy. So you're going to have to face them down all hours to find out what that compensation is. But remember, guys, you just had your client sign a buyer's representation agreement. They're not your prospect. They're not a consumer. They're your client. Your client just told you that they didn't want to see properties where your compensation wasn't being taken care of by the seller. Well, they also told you they wanted to buy in Stono, not off Culebra and 1604. They're going to get upset if all of a sudden you're showing them houses at 1604 and Culebra. Well, I'm also going to be upset when you're trying to bring up this conversation that we had at buyer's orientation when I specifically told you that I didn't want to be exposed to a property where your compensation wasn't being taken care of. See what I mean? It's a filtering criteria that you have to know and clearly understand to be able to provide the options to your client of what is a good fit for them based on income, assets, and credit. Okay. Mhm.
Like, if you get that verbally from the client and then you get to closing and they're like, oh no, sorry, we're not offering. And you're like, wait a minute, you text me or you tell me on the phone that you were offering 6%. Like, what do we,
That can't happen. That can't happen because what it is that if you didn't get your broker compensation agreement, you cannot get to the table. You cannot get to contract execution without having your buyer's representation, establishing your client relationship, your agreement amongst brokers for the compensation. That has to be part. That becomes the second most important form. You can't show up to closing and go, "Oops, I thought you were going to pay me." Because you have to realize this, guys. It is the fiduciary duty because you took on a client of the buyer's agent to clearly identify the compensation and who is going to pay for it, and then weed out those properties or filter them accordingly. Furthermore, it's no longer, it's so crucial that you have the compensation agreement amongst brokers executed as before submitting your offer. So when they accept it, you know that we're not having this conversation at closing. It was had during contract negotiations. Okay. You will pay the compensation. Okay. Furthermore, guys, probably one of the most important things I'm getting ready to tell you, because I got that call. Hey, I got an offer on my listing. Um, and there is nothing written on the informational page of the contract as to compensation. At the very bottom where it says the brokers, that information, that's information. It's only for informational purposes, guys. The agent didn't fill out that page, didn't have their compensation agreement as part of their offering. The listing agent is to assume that the buyer will pay their agent. Therefore, the net to the seller as the listing agent, oh, well, they didn't put anything on the compensation page. They didn't include the broker compensation. Oh, I guess the buyer is going to pay their agent, their buyer's agent. So then all of a sudden, how do you prepare your net? It is not the responsibility of the listing agent to call the buyer's agent and say, hey, brother, were you going to get paid? How are we doing this? At that moment that you're asking the buyer's agent for that form, you're out of compliance. You're not upholding your fiduciary duties to the seller. Because then all of a sudden, their net is off that 3%. Because you don't know, you can't read minds, that you don't know how to do your job, and that you don't have any broker support, and that you didn't attend closing, and that you didn't include uh, that shared compensation agreement. It is the fiduciary duty of the agents to ensure that they're going to get paid before showing the home as you're negotiating the contract. And if everything is in place, closing, you're going to get compensated. Okay. But go ahead.
Okay, so I got no, and it didn't come with the broker compensation nor the addendum. So when I brought it up to the buyer's agent, and I said,
And you're the listing agent.
I'm listening.
Technically, you weren't supposed to mention that. Technically,
Well,
technically,
but-
but I'll be brutally honest with you, and I'm going to talk about it at the end. We want to play well with others. I know that it's crazy right now. The reason that I'm going to allow you guys to mention it, I'm going to allow you guys to mention it maybe for the next 3 to 4 months, but in the future, you're not going to be able to. Right now, we need to mention it because those forms, because they're full transparency, are going to help us avoid lawsuits into the future because it clearly identifies what this NAR settlement is about. So forget about the compensation. It's what it's being disclosed and the process and the procedure and the protocol and what we're settled on. Okay.
And so I know that for these documents and use, I just wanted you to let me know if you're aware of that, because if not, I can't execute the contract until those are in place. And she says, well, because I didn't give you the full price offer, I'm not expecting to get paid. But my client has already on the listing agreement signed for their compensation as well.
Okay.
So,
So who holds the gold?
so they're not gonna get paid, like,
Who holds the gold? You always have to negotiate from a position of strength. Not knowing, not knowing is detrimental to your business. How many times do you think that she's going to be able to do that and stay in business? Guys, we have an average of 2 to 3 folks joining our firm, because they're concerned about everybody getting their piece of the pie. In this case, she gave up the entire pie,
the whole thing.
the whole thing. So who's going to pay her? Her buyer?
I don't know, I didn't ask.
Okay. Yeah, right. So right now, you did the right thing because once again, we want our agents because we do have a lot of veterans that are here to be the leaders in the industry. What you did was nice, kind, gentle, and respectful, but technically, um, I'm not sure if that will be allowed in the future because that's how contracts will be negotiated. The economy right now is horrible. This inflation's taking a toll on a lot of things across the board. But what ends up happening in a year from now, or if this was for 2022, and you don't get that compensation agreement, you're to assume that they're trying to make their offer more competitive. And it's kind of like with investors. How many of you guys, and I've talked to many of you guys, about this. Well, the investors wanting to offer this, they're calling out the terms. They don't have the right to ask you to cut your compensation. I'm like, no, sir, what's your offer? I'll be more than happy to write it up. I'm treating you, my client's the seller. Well, what do you want to offer? Well, I want to offer 10,000 less. I don't need any closing costs. And then you can waive your commission. That's not a decision that they make. That's not a contract that the seller signed with the investor. That contract signed between you and your client, the seller. They're not privileged to talk to touch your compensation or what you negotiated as part of your exclusive right to list. Right? I would avoid the question altogether. Hey, let's submit the best offer and let's see what happens. Right? But they don't have the right to mess with your compensation. Conversely, here, they lower that they must be related or something, or that person will be in my prayers and hopes he survives. But either way, what ends up happening is that at the end of the day, they didn't offer you full price. They lowered the price and chose not to get paid for whatever the reason. But that compensation is yours because the buyer's agent failed to include, right, the broker compensation agreement.
At that
Okay.
point, would I need to say anything to private?
No,
Okay.
no. What you need to do is advise them that no compensation will be paid to the buyer's agent. All the compensation belongs to you. Okay. So a lot of paragraphs referring to that this is a binding agreement. It's a client relationship. It's a contract. It can technically be enforced. They're encouraging folks to know that there's liability involved. So once again, it is a full blown contract. Not the word I want to use, but it is. You know. Um, Anybody have a question on that? Okay. Now let's talk about if you do not write up to 4% or up to 7 or 8% for construction, you will need to execute the amendment to buyer tenant representation agreement where the compensation has been modified because you might have started in the existing market and all of a sudden now they're buying a GL Horton home paying 7% compensation. Okay. Because one of the important lines, guys, that brings in the buyer's representation agreement into compliance is well, there is an amendment to the representation agreement, whether that I covered first on the listing side and the buyer side, which brings in any previous listing agreement or buyer's rep agreement into compliance if it was written prior to June of 2024. Okay. And then, of course, then you have the new forms. But then for all representation agreements, broker compensation of the sharing of compensation between brokers is not set by law nor fixed, controlled, recommended, or suggested by the Association of Realtors, MLS, or any listing service. Broker compensation is fully negotiable. Brokers independently determine their fees. And then I'm going to read section C, Amendment to Representation Agreement. This form becomes ever so important because if you wanted to know what the NAR settlement was about, it's about this amendment.
Which one do you want?
It's TXR 2701. Yeah, yeah, which was the first one that I covered, bringing your previous forms in compliance. Then there's an amendment to the long form or the short form if more compensation is being offered. Okay, but I'm going to go back to the amendment bringing the rest of the forms in compliance because if you go to section C for buyer tenant representation agreements, broker is prohibited from receiving compensation for brokerage services from any source that exceeds the amounts stated in the representation agreement. So on A is telling the seller, okay, everything's negotiable. Everything's always been negotiable. The compensation's been in the price. Your closing cost has been in the price. Even the roof that needs to get replaced is in the price. Okay. So once again, if you really want to know in a gist of what this settlement is about, Form PXR 2701 gives you the highlights, full transparency on compensation and who pays it. And furthermore, that a buyer's agent cannot collect more than what the buyer agreed. So, guys, we are doing things differently now. I know that many of you guys are we're used to providing your compliance packages at the end. Now we're needing to verify them at the beginning. Your exclusive right to list. When you go live with a listing, you go live with the listing, you need to go to Broker IDX, upload your compliance package, and then you have to disclose the compensation. That way, the moment you go live and it's a hot listing, you can refer people to our website or through your RSS feed that is on your Sabor profile. Hey, can you go to my profile? There's a feed there. It's going to take you to my website, and then you can verify what compensation is. Oh, and if you're going to submit an offer, I'll be more than happy, to sign that broker's compensation agreement. Okay. But number one, but the other thing is that we need to make sure that your file is in compliance as far as the disclosure of the compensation is, and that it not be on MLS because they're going to purge all of that. Okay. So it has to be on a different platform. It could be social media. It could be email and text, your signature. Okay, your e-card for those of you that have one. It might not be a bad idea to have one. Hey, why don't I get you my business card? It's got my RSS feed on it that has all of my listings as well as all the compensation. That's the way that it needs to be handled. Or hey, here's my website, go my company website, go there, right? We have to do the compliance piece for the disclosure of the compensation. And also now the biggest piece, because many of you guys charge a transaction fee or charge 4%. We have, Sandra that doesn't even leave her ranch without charging a 4% plus a transaction fee. It's on every one of her buyer's reps since like 10 years ago. Okay. So we've always been doing this, guys. So when title knows that, that you're needing to collect money from the buyer, whether it be $500 or all of the compensation, they're going to require to see your buyer's representation agreement. It already happened to a couple of people at different title companies and a couple of builders. Is that extra money wasn't on the buyer's rep agreement? You cannot collect more money than what the buyer agreed to pay. Okay, even though the seller or the builder is paying for the compensation, that's the reason you have to use this further amendment. Now let's go to that one. Amendment TXR 1505. I mean, I just covered the long form. You could avoid this amendment, guys, by going up to 4% in the existing market or up to 7 or 8% on new construction.
Good.
Yes.
Don't need this.
And then you won't need the amendment because if you start at 3 or 4% and then you take it to DR Horton, and all of a sudden you don't have to execute. Incidentally, the builder will always want you to use their forms. So what ends up happening is that the compensation agreement between brokers is not needed in new construction because the builder has their own form. They will never execute a TAR or a TREC form. The builder, their attorneys have their own form. They hand it over to you when you do it in person. Hey, can you just go ahead and sign this? We're going to take care of your realtor. They didn't tell them what the compensation is. Okay. But in this case, you could have taken care of it through the long form and said up to 7 or 8% because HUD allows me to collect A. I don't know if we're going to be in this journey for 2 years, but if the builder offers 4, 5, or 6, I'll take 4, 5, or 6. But just in case we run into the builder or 2 years worth of work, well, I charge A. Right? So, because otherwise you would need to use TXR 1505 if your original buyer's rep agreement stated 3%, and all of a sudden you went through 3 properties that there was nothing wrong with them, and they freaked out about the little nothings, and here you went under contract twice, you exercise your unrestricted right to terminate 2 different times, and now you're finally closing on the third one, and now you want to increase your fee, you have to use this amendment. Because if your original BRA stated 3%, and now you're going to charge an extra 1,500 or another point, you need to amend that original buyer's rep agreement so that way you can collect additional compensation, whether it be bonuses, your transaction fee, or a flat out 1 or 1.5% higher. Okay? Because then it's not only your employment contract, right? Or your client, it establishes your client relationship, but it's your billing, guys. It's your invoicing. You cannot collect more money than what the buyer's rep agreement states, even if the buyer's not paying for it. If the builder or the seller is offering a bonus or a builder's offering 7, it needs to be in your long form, your short form, or through amendment. The problem with the amendment one is that they have to sign it again. So take care of it at your orientation. Everything is worst case scenario, because I don't know how long our journey is going to be in this 109-degree weather, but wow, I'm worth every penny and then some, right? But don't do the amendment, guys, because it requires the signature of the buyer. Because then, oh wow, I thought you were going to get paid 3, and now you're going to get paid 7. Wow, well, I'm needing new furniture or a cruise or something. Are you going to share that with me? Right? Right? So I would um, suggest or advise not to use this form. Use it if you have to bring yourself in compliance. Okay. Um,
I'm sorry.
yes,
Yeah,
sir.
on that 8% up to 8%, I was reading this, and of course, we're all over the read and so forth. I think last name has the inventory house, one that's already built. This says, oh, where's that? one that's gonna be built, so forth and so on. It'll be up to 8%. If I may, if client uses broker service here or negotiate the construction improvements through property client owns or may acquire, client ensures the broker will receive the client or contract until construction is substantially complete or up to extent. What if it's an inventory home? Is that already covered up?
It is.
Okay,
Yeah. A home is considered a new home as long as it has not been occupied in the last 365 days. That is what defines a brand new home on the HUD website. If it's a home that's older than 365 days that has not been lived in, it immediately goes into the existing bucket. Okay. One full calendar year unoccupied is considered a new home. Okay. So that would include spec. Does anybody have any questions?
How about the scenario when you tell the buyer, and they don't want to pay your compensation, but they wanna see 5 homes, and you call and you can't get, you don't know what the compensation because they didn't answer the phone or it's not anywhere. So you say, I'm sorry, I can't show this home. 'Cause I don't know if it's compensation or not. And then you find out later, oh, they did have compensation and you didn't show me this home. And now I lost it and I fell in love with it on the.
Well, what it is that that's actually not the way that I would actually handle it. He said, okay, well, you're going to give me some time. Our industry's going through some changes. I don't know if it's a small brokerage or it's a larger brokerage, but I'm needing to verify and do my due diligence and do some research. You want to see 5 homes. Let me reach out to the agent or reach out to their broker, to their office, or try to log on to their website and find out what's going on. You don't know if it's active option or it's being negotiated. They're on the verge of taking a cash offer. It just went back on market or it's about to go back on market. You don't know. Do your due diligence like you do on any other one. But just know this, and this is my advice to you guys. If you have already dictated that you're going to conduct business on the client level and they're telling you that they're not going to pay for your compensation, verify the compensation because then all of a sudden it doesn't meet the outline criteria that they're requiring from you and you're the professional. Okay. Yeah, I'm so sorry. That house doesn't meet your criteria. It could be because it doesn't have a second garage or a third restroom. Well, in this case, it's no compensation. Okay.
Maybe that we didn't find out if it, they didn't.
You need
show
to,
it or-
well, what I would do is I would make an appointment and I would text the agent, email the agent, call the agent, hey, I'm needing to verify compensation. I have a very busy schedule. I have back-to-back clients. I'm needing for you to confirm the compensation. And if he doesn't, reschedule it. Hey, I'm so sorry. We have to reschedule.
Let's say it went under contract and then there's.
Well, you have to be diligent because the moment that you cancel that appointment and the seller knows about it, they're going to want to know, hey, I cleaned my house. It took me 2 hours. And then all of a sudden, Susan Martinez with PRG cancel. Why? Can you call her? Right? Because then they blame their agent because you canceled. Or they want to know why. Right? So once again, set the stage to strong arm the other agent by scheduling an appointment, but schedule it, you know, a day or 2 days or hey, I really need to confirm the compensation. If not, I'm going to have to reschedule. You know, it's okay. Because then otherwise, don't say, oh, not because you're not paying compensation. I'm so sorry. It really does appear that this house doesn't meet my client's criteria, right? I mean, there's a workaround for it, but they're going to know. I mean, you could flat out just say, if seller's not offering compensation, I'm so sorry, doesn't mean my client's criteria. They're not in that position. There's agents that are taking the philosophy is we're not offering compensation, but if you bring me an offer, we'll think about it. No, your buyer can buy. Congratulations, your seller has just bought their house back. I'm not bringing you my cash buyer. I'm not bringing you my highly qualified FHA buyer. Okay, so you have to be strategic. Negotiate from a position of strength. These are your clients. There's plenty of inventory right now. I mean, if anything, guys, the economy isn't doing very well. On any given day, I'm getting price improvements. 5 to 10 of them, $5,000 and $10,000 price reductions. Because when you call me, your listing doesn't sell, I do three things. Because I have a degree in business and I specialize in marketing, even though I do the rest of the stuff too, the accounting and the finance and everything. But you need to make that house, your job is to make that house attractive to an able, willing buyer. Reduce the price, pay concessions, and pay a bonus. You want to sell this house, Mr. Seller? We need to do these three things. I just posted today a coming soon listing in 46 in Seguin and New Braunfels. It's a $500,000 home. Okay, full compensation, guys, and we're paying a bonus because they understand that there's a lot of houses in that area. You want your house to sell? There is no incentive like the financial guys. You pay me $1,000 to get out of bed, I might not do it. But you pay me 3% plus a $10,000 bonus, I'm like kicking the door down, right? There's no incentive like the financial, and guess who understands that? Your biggest competition in the existing market right now are the new home builders. They're not doing $5,000 and $10,000 price reductions. They're doing 20 and 30. They're not paying 3 and 4, 5 and $10,000 of closing costs. I just closed a deal in December with Perry Homes. They paid $36,000. And my client got a 4 point something. Okay. So once again, your people need to know what they're competing about. Supply and demand will kick in. Why? And the law of substitution. Why would I buy that? Or why would I expose my client to that home when there are 7 other properties in that same community? And if you're under $500,000, and here lately, even up to 7 and 800,000, they all look the same. Unless your house has a pool or something backs up to a greenbelt, trust me, we're going to find a good substitute for you. The difference is that over there they don't pay, and over here they pay. And I've had to tell the seller that all you're going to do is sell your neighbor's houses. That's all you're going to do by not paying compensation. And every day it doesn't sell, you get to buy it back because your price has been rejected by the marketplace in these three areas: price, concessions, and compensation. We're the professionals, guys. We're in control. At least you guys have a beautiful office. You have our admin team. You have a full service real estate firm. I went on record yesterday and said there's a lot of brokerages out there, but we are a full service real estate firm. We have over 30 notaries in this office. We offer insurance products on the homeowner side, life insurance side. We offer mortgages, FHA, VA, USDA, and all the non QM loans. When I get back to my desk right now, I have to work on a DSR loan. Okay. We do everything around here. All things real estate is what we do. And there's at other places where they don't even have an office. The broker's out golfing. I've been in Europe, guys. On my cruise, I took at least 15 calls from agents and clients. We're here to support you. I get it. I get it. It's going to be tough, but you have to get through that learning curve. You hear me long enough. Doesn't it sort of sound easier? Right? I mean, you've been here like 2 or 10 times. It'll be part of your presentation. Go to YouTube, watch my presentations. There's some days I'm a little bit more upset than others, and there's some days that I'm happier on others. But the message doesn't change. Negotiate from a position of strength. And you just did. And you just got both sides of that compensation or the full compensation because that buyer's agent didn't have the supporter from Bronco, and didn't want to double back and correct her paperwork. She maybe didn't even know what the form was because she didn't invest in her business. So this is your business, guys. Our industry's under attack. You have to fight for your livelihood. And every agent in this brokerage, I can guarantee, is better than most in other organizations because you guys have support. I take calls at all hours in the morning, as early as 6 and as late as 8 or 9, even on Saturdays and Sundays, to help you guys problem solve, to keep you in compliance, and to make, and to ensure that it doesn't cost you money all the time. So tap into your resources. And then also, guys, on another note, if there's other agents at another office that they're lost, help them. Because once again, the probability that you're going to be involved in another transaction in the future, it's okay to help them. Give back to the community, especially if they're one of those agents that you feel that are going to stick around. I mean, we all hate those HGTV realtors that don't return phone calls and emails. They're not available and da da da. Well, they're actively looking for work right now. But the people that are going to decide to keep this wonderful profession and as part of their livelihood or fight for it, they'll- we'll get through it together. It's okay to help other people. Okay, so you send them our Zoom, forward them to our YouTube channel. I mean, I don't even care if they come in. It's okay. We're going to get through this as an industry because it's not just office that's under attack, guys. It's our industry in the city, in the state, nationwide. What we do is important. We make dreams happen. I want to buy a house. I'm a first time home buyer. And hey, this house is too big. I'm needing a smaller home. I'm needing to take that job offer in New York City and or in Miami and Seattle. What do we need to sell? Pay full compensation. Doesn't matter what you heard in the media. I specialize in marketing and I'm one hell of an agent. Let's get this property sold. Let's price it correctly. Let's offer concessions and let's freaking pay a bonus to the buyer's agent. That's how we're going to sell your home. So that way you can take your new job that's going to pay you significantly more money. Because you holding on to your house will cost you money, but don't let it impact your future plans. You're going to regret not paying that 6, 10, 15, $30,000 in compensation and closing costs because you can take that new job somewhere else. And then you are going to be happier over there. What's it going to cost you? Right? Be passionate, guys. We're the professionals. They depend on us. There's too much crap going on in the media. Tell it the way that it is. And let's talk about that. $25,000 to a buyer to buy a house. The reason we're in this inflation, guys, is because we're forgiving student loans. $25,000 to future people. Are you freaking kidding me? That's going to make this inflation even worse. That's a bad idea. You want to change the mortgage business and real estate? One solution and one solution only. Change the FHA program to not require a down payment. VA is already at 100%. USDA is already at 100%. There's bonds and grants that we can do on the conventional side, that can get you to 100%. FHA financing needs to be 100% financing. That's what needs to happen. Don't give people anything. Just make the program where they don't need a down payment, and then that way their agent, all they have to do is negotiate, their concessions, and then their compensation, right? But that's the solution. Giving people something never worked. Okay, so I'll get off my rant. Thank you guys. Have a wonderful day. If you guys need me, we're here.